I tell you what, let's just pop into my box.
Your box? What could it get in your box gonna do?
What an extraordinarily long and involved answer this is going to be.
How do we stop it getting in? We're trapped in here.
Nothing gets through these doors.
But they're made of wood. They've got windows. No, this is hard to believe. I know you're not exactly a sci-fi person.
Welcome back, everyone. This is episode number 42 of Discussing Who. We are reviewing the pilot, which is episode number 1 of series 10 of Doctor Who. And joining us again, he's been away for a couple of weeks because, as we all know, we were away for a couple of weeks, minus episode 41, Mr. Lee Shackleford. Hey, Lee.
Hey. Good to be back.
Good to have you back. Good to be talking about a recent episode of Discussing Who. Doctor Who. I'm excited. I can't even get the words out right. I'm so excited. Well, welcome back. Glad you're here.
Thank you.
And always with us is Mr. Clarence Brown. Hey, Clarence.
Hey, guys. How are you guys doing?
Pretty good. What about you?
Doing well. Glad to be back. You know, it's our first time doing an episode during an active season of Doctor Who, which feels kind of weird.
Yeah, I know.
That's right. Yeah.
I just feel like I want to go fry some chips or something. Don't know why. Just just
Did anybody say Kyle Jones? You said Kyle Jones, didn't you?
No, I didn't. Well,
okay.
Guess what? My name is Kyle Jones, and I'm going to be discussing Who tonight. So, but seriously, it's good to have all three of us. It's good to have all three of us back. And like Clarence said, we're actually reviewing a live season of Doctor Who. So that's cool. So before we go forward, let me say this. If you're listening and you've not watched the pilot, which is episode 1, put us on pause, save the podcast, download it, subscribe to iTunes, or however you want to listen to us. Go watch the pilot, choose your medium, watch the pilot, come back and listen to us because there are spoilers abound. So, fair notice, spoilers.
Spoilers. Affirmative. Spoilers. Spoilers. Affirmative. Spoilers.
It is now available on Amazon and iTunes, right?
Yes, it is.
So I don't know of any other ways to get it.
So let me ask you guys something, and Lee, I'll ask you first. What do because Clarence, I know you're recording it right now to your DVR right now, so I know how you're getting it. Do you, Lee? Do you do iTunes or do you do Amazon?
Amazon, just because I have a lot of other things. It's whatever you start out with, I guess. I now have all this video in Amazon Video. But we also have BBC America at my house, and so I recorded the show. But God love them, BBC America does like to cut these episodes all to pieces.
Yeah, they do.
And the episode was a little longer than usual. I think it was on the schedule as being 1:10. And so my DVR obligingly cut off right at the climax of the. So I had to wait until the next day for Amazon to release it so I could see what the last 2 lines of dialogue were in the episode. So yeah.
Well, let me ask you this: your wireless phone that you use, is it an iOS device or is it an Android?
It's a Droid.
Okay, so
this was the Droid I was looking for.
Well, let me tell you why I asked that. Because I've always done, I almost did the Amazon route this time, and I always do the iOS mainly because I got a Mac and have the iPhone. Here's one thing that I do not like about the iOS version or the iTunes version with the DRM that's in place. You cannot even do a screenshot, if you can't take a picture of what you're watching, because if you take a screenshot on your Mac of whatever you're watching that you just purchased, that screenshot is nothing but a gray picture.
Yep. And that's the other reason why I use Amazon.
So, I almost did, and next Series 11, you guys remind me, I want to do the Amazon route next time. But, it was like, really? I paid for this. It would be different if I didn't, but I paid for this, and I can't even take a screenshot so that I can blow it up and look at something in a picture. It's
true.
So.
Yeah, and we all know that piracy is one of the biggest issues, in the electronic world, but this is this always strikes me as a case of punishing the innocent for the sins of the guilty. It's like, look, we just want to make a screenshot for our podcast, okay?
Yeah, exactly. Well, my thought on that is, if you're so worried about piracy, go swim around in the Caribbean or something, and be done with it. So,
not the same, Cal. Not the same.
Yeah, I know, but still. No. All right. So, relativity speaking, Lee, you want to tell us what's the latest on the Relativity podcast?
Well, we are floating in space with the poor schmuck, Dr. Mason. We are. We have backing thanks to the great people who jumped on our Patreon campaign, including the two of you guys. And so, we're committed. We're going to at least do another 10 episodes right away, just as soon as somebody, i.e. me, can get his schedule clear to get back to work on it. So it's one of the busiest times of the year for me with school and other things that I do. So coming soon to a pair of ears near you, though. So that's where we are.
Cool. Well, I think, I speak for both Clarence and I in saying hurry up and write more episodes. We want episode 11.
There you go.
Oh, yeah. Left us on a cliffhanger.
I do have it on paper. I do actually have it on paper.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I have a feeling if you needed story editors or story consultants, or whatever you want to call them, whatever the fancy word, I probably know two people that would probably be good candidates for
there's a lot of probablys in there. But
yeah, probably.
Yeah.
All right. So, Clarence, tell us a little bit about something we talked about last episode, on episode 41, grits. Remind everyone what that is.
Yeah, grits is just a community of like-minded creators here in the Mississippi area that are getting together to try and, kind of have a cohesive following and get out there and in the places where we can group together and actually go to cons and things like that, or maybe get involved in local things here in the Mississippi area. This is just our place where we're going to do all that stuff. And the name of the group is Grits Geeks Recording in the South. And there's a website if you want to check out some of the creators that we have right now. It's just gritsms.com. And yeah. And it's going good so far and having fun with it. Cool.
Well, I'll say this: we've already seen, some cool networking. There's a Reality Breached podcast that has done a interview with the comic book shop that I actually go to every week, which I thought that was, very cool. So.
Yeah, I was really surprised to see Comic Commander pop up on there. It was really cool. I forgot the guy's name, but the guy was always in there when we go. It was cool seeing him on there. I didn't get to listen to the whole thing, but what I heard was pretty good. And we just want those guys to continue to, stay involved locally and try to bring out some of this geek culture here in Jackson, Mississippi that's kind of off in corners. We want to bring it to the limelight.
But let me put Lee in on a little info on this place. This particular comic shop has it's upstairs for one thing. So you have to you walk in this door, you ascend the stairs that are lined with comic book related merchandise and posters and whatnot. And at the top of the stairs, of course, is a comic book shop. Well, I'm not a dog person. I'm saying this on the air right now. I'm not a dog person. And the guy that's in there that has this dog named Coco, which is actually a dog that I like. So the simple fact that that dog is a dog that I like, there is something cool about that comic book shop. So FYI.
I've never seen a dog, man. I've been there twice and never seen a dog.
All right, so the next time you go, you've got to just say the word Coco and he'll pop up.
Okay.
Clarence, the dog only exists in Kyle's mind.
Good one.
Little leading going on there, huh?
Good one. We got reality bleed. That was a good one. All right, so coming up in about less than 3 weeks from now is Hulanta 2017. It will be Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And as we mentioned in episode 41, all three of us on this podcast right now are going. And Lee, have you by chance, I'm going to put you on the spot, have you had a chance to listen to episode 41?
I have not.
Okay, well, I'm not going to ruin the laugh that I was about to give you and talk about. So I encourage you to listen to us talk about all the stars that are coming. We're not going to mention all of them, but we will say that Nicola Bryant as well as Colin Baker, the Sixth Doctor, will be at Hulanta. So we're excited about that. And you, Lee, need to go listen to episode 41 so you can understand what I'm talking about.
Okay, yeah. I've been to Time Gates before, and to me, it is that sweet spot of cons. It is big enough that they can attract, well, like in this case, they're happy that for the first time they have a doctor and one of his companions.
And yes, that were paired
so that's very cool.
On the screen together, right?
Exactly, and right. And but it's also not so big that it's just you just feel like you're being stepped on all the time. So, and that may change, of course, as so often happens. But right now, I just love the scale of Hulanta, as it's being called now. But yeah.
So anyone listening who's listening to us before May the 5th and you happen to be going, if you see three guys walking around, we will have black shirts on that will have the Discussing Who podcast written on the front. Come up and say hi to us. We will be there on Friday. We will be there on Saturday. And then, of course, we'll be traveling back home on Sunday. So you may not see us on Sunday, but you will see us. We will be there Friday and Saturday. So, gentlemen, are you ready to get in the news?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, cool. So the only thing that I have is spoilers, but the only thing that I have in the news is the maybe red herring, but that Capaldi may be leaving prior to Christmas. Clarence, what do you think?
I really don't have a clue. I've been hearing some of the rumors you've been talking about with who might be the next Doctor, and I don't know. This is hard to keep under wraps for so long. So, I definitely could see for that reason alone a good reason for them to do it earlier. But man, December is a long time to wait, and to keep that hidden. Which I don't know if we want to give a spoiler who we think it is. I'll let you do that.
All right. Well, Lee, I think it's pretty much, we've said spoilers abound. So anyone listening, they've taken fair warning that spoilers exist. So Lee, what do you think? Do you think he's going to leave? And if so, do you want to comment on who the speculation is?
No and no. Our buddy Ian Bissett was talking about this just the other day, that he feels like he's reached his saturation threshold with spoilers and news tidbits and so on. And I realized I am too. I really don't want to talk about it anymore. Now that the series has begun, I would like to experience this as a surprise week after week, including the inevitable transition from 12 to 13. And so that's where I'm at.
All right. Well, you know what? I'll answer that by this. If it's the Mirror talking about it, and it's been out several days and the BBC still hasn't confirmed anything, I'm not going to mention the name other than saying if it is true, considering that I've seen this person, I won't say male or female, but I will say seen this person on something else previously. I think I would be fine with that, but I will say this about spoilers. Why do you guys think that they, being the BBC, released the fact that John Sim was returning as the Master? Why not keep that under wraps?
That feels little. That feels less of a huge spoiler to me. I mean, eventually somebody would have saw him and said that he was on set. So, still, that I don't consider that a big spoiler. It's just somebody that's going to be on a show or two, maybe. But the knowing who the next Doctor is huge. It's huge, and I have to agree with Lee. It would be so much more impactful if we just found out on that night of watching the show. And I know it's almost impossible in the days of the internet to keep something under wraps, but to just have that surprise would be something that would be, the payoff for it would be way worth it.
I don't agree that it's almost impossible, and I'm going to give you an example. And that example being the Night of the Doctor with Paul McGann returning.
That was a complete surprise. And I loved it so much. If somebody had just said, hey, watch this, it's going to have the Eighth Doctor in it, wah, wah. Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. The genius of that was that it was a complete, I'm not the Doctor you were expecting. Wow. He certainly wasn't. That was great.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's my memory of the Night of the Doctor. So I'm sitting at work mid-morning, and this person comes into my office and says, hey, you got just a minute. And, we all know who this person was, Clarence. And he says, Clarence walks up and he was like, hey, do you have just a minute? And, I was like, sure. And he says, well, there's a mini episode for the 50th anniversary you might want to watch. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And so it says, the Night of the Doctor or whatever, and it starts. And I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. And explain, because I've never asked you this question, explain the look on my face when I realized, because you had already seen it, explain the look on my face whenever I realized who that was when he says, and not the Doctor you were expecting.
Well, first off, I'm surprised. I'm surprised myself that I can get the one up on you on anything Doctor Who. So the fact that I brought it to you and you hadn't seen it probably surprised me more than you. But yeah, for real. But you were, the look on your face, you were shocked. And, it's those moments that I want to have. That's why I don't want to be spoiled about the Doctor, 6 months in advance to when we're going to see him or whatever. It's just that surprise and that awe of the moment that you get, that you got. So we just need more of that.
Well, I remember, when they announced Capaldi, that it was a live televised simulcast between the UK and the US of the new Doctor. It was a televised special. And I just don't see the new Doctor being released in a tabloid as opposed to some fanfare.
Yeah. Yeah, if it's the Mirror and nobody else, that in itself is suspicious.
Correct. Okay. And so let's, at this point, unless you guys have any other news, I'm ready to get into the pilot.
Dig in, man.
Let's do it.
All right, so we start at the beginning of the pilot with Bill, and she's walking in to his office. Take it away, either one of you.
Well, the first thing that jumps out at me about this is Nordal. When he walks in, we have really got no explanation what happened to Nordal or how he was put back together, but he's kind of squeaking when he walks in like a robot, and a screw falls from his wrist. I'm like, what's going on with that? So, Nordal was the big surprise in that little scene right there. And also, I'm going to give one of you guys a chance, but also I got trolled in the first few minutes of course, we heard the guitar and saw the sonic shades. And I was like, no.
Okay, so was he wearing the shades?
When he peeked through, I think he was wearing them.
Okay, because I didn't. Maybe I mentally blocked them out. I don't remember the. Of course, remember the guitar, but I don't remember the shades.
Yeah, they definitely were there.
All right, so Lee, what did you think about that office scene?
Well, delightful to see her the cup full of sonic screwdrivers from over the years. But of course, that was another one of those things that had been spoiled for us because we'd seen that in the studio shots. I just backed up my video of it since I can do that, and he was indeed wearing the sonic sunglasses. And then he steps back out and comes back in without them or the guitar.
Yeah.
So anyway, but very quickly we learned that he's been the professor at this university for she says for like 50 years.
Yeah.
Which we know is possible for him. Apparently, Time Lords don't age inside their own incarnation very much. We've sort of established that. So it's possible that he's now skipped back in time and has been there for 50 years. Just doing this for whatever reason. And I love that as a mystery. It's also cool. This is that we're doing episode number 42 right now.
That is very cool.
What do we know the number 40 is the significance of the number 42 in the science fiction fantasy universe?
The answer to life, meaning, and everything. Something like that.
It is indeed. It is the answer to the ultimate question of life, the universe, and everything. Douglas Adams, who was a story editor on Doctor Who, and wrote several unforgettable episodes, including one that was never completed.
Correct. Shada. Yes.
Shada. Yeah. So Shada is kind of that. It's almost like the ultimate obscure Doctor Who episode because it had to be released years after the fact and kind of bookended with narration and so on, just so you can get it out there. But Shada deals with, among other things, a renegade Time Lord who is posing as a university professor who has been there forever, apparently maybe literally forever, and the Fourth Doctor and Romana turn up to confront him with the fact that they know what he's up to. That is Professor Chronotis, whose name is should be transparent. Why did people not ask him why his name is Chronotis? But see, that's everywhere that I don't use my real name on the internet, I'm Professor Chronotis, and that's where that joke comes from. So we come into this pilot, and apparently our Doctor, the 12th Doctor, he's playing Professor Chronotis. He's doing the same thing that he saw somebody else do many years ago. So that really tickled me. And then so that's a Douglas Adams idea. And then I thought, holy smoke, that's going to be on our episode number 42.
And wasn't the version of the TARDIS that he stole, speaking of 42, wasn't it a old Mark 42 TARDIS?
They called it a Type 40.
Type 40. Okay.
Yeah, Type 40. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I was
TT
close.
for time travel. The TT Type 40. Yeah, but yeah. 40s are important for some reason. But anyway, yeah. I since Moffat is of course a big fan of this show, I assume that this is a deliberate reference to Shada here, that to have the Doctor doing this. So, but yeah, and this is. We know that he's going to be adopting another companion here, right? Right. But so I think a lot who have been through this process now for 40 years or however long we've been watching, we watch it closely. We want to see how this is going to be negotiated. And I like this. He's recruiting her as a student. Yeah. And not as a traveling companion. And I really like, because of her obvious curiosity and her intellectual acuity, and which I think are good reasons for liking somebody.
Yeah, and she's not actually a student. She's just kind of attending. She
works in the cafeteria.
Yeah, which I don't know if that was an obvious nod to Steve Jobs, because he kind of did the same thing. He just went to some classes after he dropped out. So I thought that was pretty cool. I don't know if it was on purpose, but...
Well, no, I didn't know that, but a lot of people can say the same thing. That's the story they tell at was it USC, I think, about Steven Spielberg. It was sort of like, who's that guy? I don't know. He just keeps coming to classes.
So did you guys notice anything else about the desk?
Oh, certainly.
Well, there's River Song, and I was tickled to see this because it sort of shows that I'm getting old, I guess. But that the internet was just lit up to people saying, "But who was that other girl?" Really, I'm saying, seriously. But we haven't seen Susan before. Well, we have seen Susan before in the series, but not referenced so that we know who she is.
Not referenced in the sense of he's actually looking at her picture at one point and talking to her.
Yes.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Right.
Yeah. All right, so let me say this, and I'm just going to go ahead and just be blunt and say it. And Clarence, just forgive me for what I am about to say. But the way Capaldi was without Clara, it was like I was immediately within 10 minutes saying, why is he having to leave now? Why couldn't Clara have left 2 years ago? Because the whole dynamic of he just had an energy about him and a likability for me that I've not had for 2 years. I mean, he was really fun, and it was just really, really different for me with him. And I think it's because there was no Clara. Mm. So, I just got to say it. It was just different.
Yeah, I can't. I don't know about that one because I'm trying to think of why he felt different to you. He attempted to have fun before, hence the glasses and the shade and a guitar.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out what's leading you to think that he's more fun now. A little fresher. I'll agree with that part because, of course, Bill makes him. It brings out questions that we have for him. She's kind of our surrogate, so I do think he's fresher, but more fun. I don't know. I'll wait and see.
Okay, all right, I'll give you that. So before we move on, I want to talk a couple of more things that I noticed from that scene and me freezing frame and looking at the desk. There, sitting on the desk was either a wood or some type of raven. So, speaking of Clarence harking back, there was a raven there. Whether I know he doesn't remember what Clara looks like, doesn't remember Clara, but still, there was a raven on the desk. There was between the picture of Susan and River, there was this globe, like paperweight looking thing. Even though it didn't totally look like it, but it reminded me of one of the stasis cubes from the Day of the Doctor. Just throwing that out there. Well, of course, you guys already mentioned sonic screwdriver. Now, over on the other side, so this would be on the left-hand side of the desk, there was this wire-framed piece of, I don't want to say artwork, but I'm going to call it artwork. There was this little small sculpture kind of thing under a glass, and even though it was like gold wire, if it had have been turned blue and white, that would have looked like the scar tissue of his time travels through the name of it was shown in the TARDIS and the name of the Doctor. To me, that's kind of what that looked like. So
I thought you were going to say flux capacitor, but that'll work. What you said will work too.
And another interesting thing, when she was talking, explaining why she was coming, or talking about making chips actually, but when he was standing at the window, he picks up an album. Well, the album title is His Master's Voice. Just maybe a play on words, but. His master's voice there.
Oh, yeah. I thought another good thing about this whole scene is when she was asking what to call him, he says, just call me the doctor. And then she's like, Doctor what? I thought that was pretty funny. I mean, the joke's been made before, but still thought it was pretty funny.
It's always good.
Yeah, but you know what? She changed it because it's always, the doctor, Doctor Who. She said, Doctor what? So... Yeah. And about the same time, right before he walks over and she says that, I actually thought of Angie, who was on with us a couple of episodes ago and will be back next week, actually. When Bill asked, "Is that a police box? Did you build it from a kit?" I thought of Angie making the comment of, "No, they've got a kit. You can go on the web and look that up." So I thought of her actually when they said
that was exactly. I thought of her too. That remark at that exact moment too. I said, "Is that a joke about people building TARDISes?"
It would have to be, wouldn't
it? Yeah. I can't think of any other reason for it. It was.
How'd you get it in here?
Right, the crane.
All right, so let me ask you: Did the and no Wikipedia cheating if you don't know? Did the foster mom? Did she look familiar to either one of you?
Not me.
Lee, what about you?
Well, I'm always, sort of prey to the joke they say that there's only 20 actors in Britain because we see them in everything. So. Yeah, I've just gotten accustomed to saying, yeah, I'm sure I've seen her somewhere else before.
All right, so she has actually been in Doctor Who previously. She was in 2007's Gridlock, the episode where the 10th Doctor is telling Martha at the end about what had happened to Gallifrey, and so it ends with that. She is the lady or the wife that was married to the Cat Man.
Okay. They just had kittens.
They had just had kittens, exactly.
Brannigan.
So, so that's who. Because I kept looking, and I was like, okay, this woman looks familiar, and I just did a Google search of Bill Potts' stepmom. Who is she on Google? And that's how I found it.
Well, here's a related thing that I'm looking at because I'm watching this on Amazon. They have the feature they call X-Ray, which is sort of trivia about the episode that you bring that up as an option. And I've now looked at this several times. In the first couple of minutes of the episode, one of the X-ray boxes that's up says Mina Anwar was a series regular in the spinoff The Sarah Jane Adventures.
Really?
Huh. And all I can say is, yes, she was. But she's not in this. So why are you talking about me? So I keep watching to see if I can find where Mina Anwar is.
But at least we know. She was in the spinoff series.
For some reason, they're alerting me to the fact that she was in Sarah Jane. I remember her. But where is she in this episode? Anyway, there are certainly a lot of people in this episode.
Absolutely. All right. Well, at this point, we're going to take a quick break, and we will be back in just one moment.
Hop aboard the TARDIS and set your coordinates for Wholanta, Atlanta's premier Doctor Who convention, May 5th through the 7th at the Marriott Atlanta Century Center. Meet 6th Doctor Colin Baker, Perry Brown, actress Nicola Bryant, Jackie Tyler, actress Camille Kuduri, scriptwriter Jamie Matheson, artist Kelly Gates and Mark Maddox, representatives from Retro TV, authors, podcasters, and more. There will be discussion panels, Q&As, a cabaret, a masquerade, live music, dance on the Orient Express, a dealer's room, kids' activities, and fun for the whole family. For more information, go to Wholanta.com. Wholanta 2017. Don't miss it.
All right, we are back with our episode number 42 review of Doctor Who Series 10, Episode 1, The Pilot. And we have just been talking about the people who are showing up on Amazon and who are companion to the Doctor. And we've got a new companion in Bill Potts. So, Clarence, what did you think overall about Bill at this point, or even throughout the whole episode? What was your take on Bill?
I liked her. I don't know how I really feel about I don't know how to put this. I wish that they didn't have to make a big deal about her sexuality in the show. I think it could have just easily been organic, and we could have just saw the episode and been like, oh, okay, I get it, without it having to be a big announcement or however it leaked before the show came out. I thought it was done well, and it was elegant enough where they could have just played the show and let us just experience it for ourselves. So, I enjoyed her. She had a few moments to where she had to have some emotional scenes. And I thought, as well as being frightened. So I thought those were both really well done. And as an actor, I really, really liked her. And I can't wait to see how she is in the rest of the episodes.
All right, so
What
Lee,
about you guys?
Lee, what do you think?
Yeah, same. I was just really immediately drawn to her. I think she's really compelling. She has a wonderfully expressive face, and that's this director really likes to get the camera in people's right up in their faces. So that's good. It's good that it's such a pleasure to watch. But yeah, I like the way the character is written. She is not your average person, but she also moves comfortably in the world of ordinary people, and so that makes her a good character for us as our, as we were saying before, she's usually our translator or our person who speaks for us, and always fun to see that character get to ask the questions that we know she wants to ask, and very often the questions we want to ask. Like, what's the big deal about the Daleks, for example? Yeah. And can I use the toilet?
It's not like she says what we want to say. She'll say almost what we want to say, but she'll just be off one little bit to make it a little more quirky and funny. Yeah. I really like that about her.
Yeah.
And you know what? I really think, Lee, I think you just answered Clarence's question that he posed to me earlier, which was, what about her was different for me than Clara? Or actually, what about the Doctor was different without Clara? And I think what Lee just said is an example of it was not necessarily him, but it was Pearl Mackey's Bill Potts that the chemistry between the two just lit up for me the screen where the others two just kind of was been there, done that.
And definitely a different type of chemistry. I will agree with you there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's different.
And Lee, I think I cut you off. So what were you saying?
Well, you have to, or I'll just keep talking continuously for 90 minutes. But this is something that we know. I have been talking, when we were talking about the return of Dr. Mysterio, that I think that what's fun about Nardole is that he's very often his job is to make sort of comic understatements, like when the ghost comes through and does that spectacular rescue, and fights the bad guy. And Nardole's remark is, well, he seems nice. Those kinds of things. And Bill, of course, goes in the other direction, to say things that perhaps we were thinking, but then again, to phrase them in a way that isn't what we expect. So it's going to be fun to travel with the two of them, I think.
Yeah. And as Nordal just became the Doctor's assistant at this point, he doesn't even feel like a companion in any way. He's just like, he's the Doctor's apprentice. I mean, assistant
he's a talking sonic screwdriver. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's the 10 dog. No, he's K9. That's it.
Well, he may be, if he really is robotic, he could actually be, considered K9 Mark 10, K9 Mark Nardole.
Oh, it's so bad.
But you know what? My thing with him was my favorite Nordle moment in there was beside having to run interference for them was that was funny. But the end where he makes the comment of the Doctor doesn't see people crying, or he doesn't he doesn't want to pay attention to that. So it was almost like you're the conscience of the Doctor in some degree.
Yeah. It's funny you should say that. Just as I'm silently watching the episode here, because I was just looking again at probably my favorite moment in this episode, and we think of the Doctor as being emotionally clueless and needing the human companions to sort of keep him grounded with the people he's supposed to be working for. But suddenly a miracle happens, and Bill has all these pictures of her mother after she's been told that there aren't any. And as she goes through them, we realize where they've come from.
But didn't we realize that, though, when all of a sudden, here's this box of pictures, didn't we kind of think, oh, well, you know what he did?
I wasn't that far ahead of it. No, because that happens. It really does. Hey, I found this box. This could be, But holy Hannah, he went back in time so that there would be pictures of her.
Yeah.
Who does that? So he's already obviously taken her under wing. he invests in Bill already, and that's just. I just thought that was beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And I'm always on record as picking on Stephen Moffat for being careless about writing things, but geez, he can always pull out the emotional hooks like that.
Yeah. Yeah, so good. Pulling at the heartstrings.
Good on him.
And what did you guys think of the moment when they went into the TARDIS and she's, so we've got, so there's the quote unquote bad guy who may not be a bad guy or a bad thing or whatever you want to call it. And so they're getting into the TARDIS and she thinks it's the police box, and the point where she turns around and sees, but she says before that, let's see, she says something about, what was it?
Well, the doctor says nothing's getting through these doors.
Right?
Like,
yes,
they're made of wood, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly.
And they have windows. That's what it was.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
There's nothing to stop something from coming through here. Yeah,
and
but like Lee said, her expressive face was all I really needed in that moment. Just I was grinning when she just turned around and looked at the TARDIS. I thought it was great,
especially after she had just said, "You don't," and I know you're not into sci-fi, or I know you don't do sci-fi, and it turns around.
Yeah,
that's right. Oh, apparently you are. Yeah. Who was it? It's funny that I can see David Tennant's face now, but I can't remember who was is it Martha? That when that equivalent moment happens and she says it's bigger on the inside and he mouths it along with her.
Yes.
Yeah.
Was that Martha?
That was Martha.
It's just one of my favorite moments.
And did you notice, because this was the, it's a kitchen and then it's a bathroom. Whoever edited that did a fantastic job, because if you notice, when you go back and listen to it, if you didn't notice, the parts when she's asking a question, it's this grand doctor, I am the doctor music, and then she asks a question and the music stops. And then he starts talking again, the music comes back up. She asks another off-the-wall question, the music stops. And then, so it's this play back and forth with, it is called the TARDIS.
I'm trying to be grand here.
Yes. And then she says, well, where do you go to the bathroom or whatever,
Right.
Yeah. Which obviously, they have a bathroom there, which, obviously you would think that there would be, but now we know that there is a bathroom in the TARDIS.
Normal robot or organic, you decide.
Good comeback. All right, so let me ask you something about this. What about the doctor's speech or his? I know I'm bouncing around, but as the doctor said in this very speech, time is not linear. So, what did you guys take from the whole lecture that he was presenting that spells out TARDIS?
I'll let you take it, Lee.
Well, I love that he's holding an audience spellbound just by his remarkable delivery. But yeah, it does seem to me like it's more or less gibberish. I mean, everything that he's saying is true. Everything that we know, these are all things that we know from as fans of the series. He's telling the truth. These things are just not related to each other, and what the students are supposed to be gaining from this, apart from having their minds blown, is a little difficult to tell. I actually, it's one of those moments where I stepped out of watching the show and became was sort of thinking about the production of the show, and I was just looking at all those extras sitting out there and thinking, man, wouldn't you like to have done that day where your job is just to sit there and listen to Peter Capaldi do that scene?
Oh, that would be cool.
I would be one of those people. So
now the outside, I want to say this about the place where they're shooting this. The outside, when they were out there at night, or even in the day, it reminded me a little bit of where young Danny Pink, when they went into, that episode where there was the thing under the blanket. I don't remember the name of the episode, but it was when they saw young Danny Pink as a kid. Right. That outside looked the same outside, like the same exterior of the building. But let me ask you guys a question, and I'm not getting into what's being held in the vault or whatever, but how is he teaching random stuff at this random university? What's going on there?
Yeah, as a university professor, that's, of course, what I was wondering. I was thinking, well, students are signing up for something. I mean, they're paying a tuition here. They have to get a grade of some kind at the end of this. But you try not to get too caught up in the nuts and bolts of something like that. But, he's been teaching there. It's fine. Let's go. Let's move ahead. But what's your thought about that?
Clarence, what do you think before I give my 2 bits?
Well, you could be like a philosopher or something. I don't know. I mean, can't you get around with some gibberish in that class? Yeah. Not to say that they're not well educated, but back to your question before about just attending a class where, he's not really saying much, and how does he hold that? A lot of free thinkers or people that draw a crowd are those type of eccentric thinking people. So not to say that everything that he says can't be understood or not, we don't know. We only have the short clip. But I can see where people will be drawn to somebody who talks like he's from another world and about these great things. So I can see why students will be drawn to that, and maybe even why Bill was drawn to it.
Mm-hmm. All right, so here's my thing. Yes, I agree with what both of you said. Very valid points. But I'm looking at it more from, and I don't want this to come off as being cynical, but it may well be. I'm looking at it more from the perspective of really into the how, and I know, Lee, you made the point of, trying not to think too literal into things. But I think that for this particular case, thinking the literal is going to wind up being part of the story, because that ties into the next thing I want to talk about, which is there's something in a vault or it's somewhere on campus. Mm-hmm. So my point being, vault plus doctor equals position.
Yeah, it's clear that's why he has to have been there for 50 years. He's either become the guardian of this thing, which has Gallifreyan writing all over it.
Correct.
Sure you noticed. But yeah, it doesn't answer the question of how he's what these students are being graded on.
Right. No. You're right. You're right. From that perspective, no. And I know I'm just spouting, thoughts here, but that makes me wonder what type of university, what type of school this is, because you go back and you look at some of the interactions that we have seen between Bill and between the doctor, even what we've already talked about. Some of these things, if you look at it a second time or watch it a second time, for me, didn't quite add up. And I'll give you an example. There is a point early on, or almost halfway through the episode, where the doctor and Nordal are down with the vault, and the first thing I noticed was she goes to the door and the door just opens for her. She comes on in, but then they explain, oh, well, the door knew you were friendly. Well, they knew a friendly being. Let's assume that they didn't know that it was Bill, even though they could have assumed it was Bill. There was still somebody that went in there, but they didn't follow and find out who this person was. So that just, it was almost like you were pointing Bill into the direction, and if so, why are they pointing her in this direction?
Nah, I don't know. Maybe that's reading into it a little too much. I get what you're saying, though. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, I don't see why. I mean, he does ask the question, well, what do you have the security set to? And he said friendly, like you just said. But I don't know if that was them baiting her in there for a certain reason. But knowing who our showrunner is, it could be. So I wouldn't put nothing past them.
That's right. Yeah. I really, really, really do not want her to be the most special person in the universe.
No, I do not either.
But Clarence is right. Knowing this showrunner,
yeah,
it could be. But the reason why they're there is because of her. So,
and considering the fact that with this, let's forget being changing of the Doctor. This is changing of the guard for showrunners. So, if Moffat has done things that have, some have been misses, but for the most part, if you look back over his tenure, he's got a pretty strong hit record. If some people like Moffat, some people don't, and et cetera and so forth. But if you look at his record, he has more hits than he has misses. So I still say
it's true
that he's going to go out with a bang. He's going to give something to where, if all works out correct, people will remember Stephen Moffat for that fantastic season 10 of Doctor Who.
Mm-hmm. I hope so. Man, I hope you're right.
So what did you guys think of and again, I won't call it the bad guy, but the oil, let's call it. What did you guys think of the puddled oil?
Man, the worst part of the episode by far, in my opinion. I enjoyed the first half of the show, but when we actually dove into the antagonist, or I guess like you said, not true enemy of this episode that we found out later, it was just like totally uninteresting to me. I mean, I just didn't. It just didn't hit me.
Lee, what do you think?
I think that's. I felt the same way, and I think that's deliberate. Is that when we're, I think very often when we're tasked with introducing a new Doctor or introducing a new companion, that whoever's running the show sort of dials back the rest of the story to a certain extent, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking of Prisoner Zero has escaped, for example. That's not what I remember about the first of the Matt Smiths. It's Prisoner Zero, not really. A lot of that was still ingenious, I thought, but it's just not time right now. We're trying to get to understand who the Doctor and Amy are, and so on and so on. I think that's been done lots of other times. But I will say that this is a Moffat trademark, is to make us afraid of commonplace things. Right, that we're scared of Christmas, we're scared of having sand in your eye, we're scared of blinking, we're scared of water trickling down the stairs.
Yeah.
It's always the way bringing us something into juxtaposition so that it's now different than what it was.
I almost felt like it was a scene, when Bill goes back to the apartment, flat, whatever you want to call it, and they, the foster mom gives her a call, and she hears the shower running, and I'm thinking, okay, now you're going to make people afraid of showers. Psycho,
exactly. Yeah.
Just kind of in reverse. Instead of you being in the shower, you're hearing a shower.
Do you guys think the whole relationship aspect of this frenemy, not really enemy, in this episode was a little bit too on the nose?
Oh, I really liked that. I thought that was really compelling. What it made me think of was, I guess spoilers for people who haven't seen all of Class, but for where people are now, as the show is starting to be shown in the U.S., there is a class coming up where people are being lured into a trap by people that they are strongly emotionally connected to.
Oh yeah,
and that's really heart-wrenching. And I thought that the Moffat used that to good advantage here too. Is that the attraction between these two women is still there, even though that's not her anymore. It's like that's all that's left of her was, her desire to connect with Bill, and that's so so sad. And to me, that really worked. That was the thing I liked best about that.
And I think it was also an element that was added to allow Bill just to not have the doctor figure it out for her, because she's the one that figured out why she was being followed. And,
That's right.
And if you had not have had that interaction between her and the human cavity or person or whatever,
what was left of Heather,
what was left of Heather, she would not have had that foreknowledge or that insight to say, "Oh, I think I know what's going on here."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right, and that's a real important moment for introducing a companion. Is to have her figure out something that the doctor hasn't figured out. Good on her. Yeah, that's great.
So let me say this: the thing about the sentient oil that was confusing at the beginning when you heard this target, pilot identified, pilot and engaged. You see, it's almost like the oil is the other side of a mirror, and you see this hand or whatever reaching. That just didn't jive with what it became, which was this sentient. And I know that could have been the sentient oil representation too, but it almost seemed like you started off with it being one type of bad guy, and then it morphed into something else throughout the story.
Yeah, that's a very robotic response that it gave, and for it to simply be this kind of goo or oil that kind of consumes this person, it seems like they were off the mark on that.
Well, I'm going to make a prediction. I predict the oil or whatever it was will return, and the reason I say that is it traveled through time.
Yes. Ian, right? Ian Bissett from the Copeland Collective?
Yes.
He made a very good point about Heather, and I don't know if you guys noticed this as well. Supposedly she just had a deformity in her eye, but he made this point, and I agree with him. It looked too alien to just simply be a deformity of some type. So I wish if that was the case, it would have looked a little more normal. But it was just like a straight up star in her eye.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Very geometric. Very. That doesn't happen organically. Yeah.
All right. So do you know? They changed the name. The original title for this episode was "A Star in Your Eye," and then they changed it about 3 or 4 weeks ago to The Pilot.
Interesting.
Very interesting. Things that make you go,
Yeah.
Now, we were talking about them going through time. The place where they went when they, traveled into the future and went to another planet, it looked a lot like the planet of the Ood from the, the set or the location or wherever. It looked like the planet of the Ood. Of course, it didn't. It wasn't snowing, but the geometric shapes in the background of the landscape reminded me of, the planet of the Ood.
And it's someplace in Wales, I'm sure, with some CG. But
exactly.
That's right. And it was and he said it was we're 33 million years in the future or something like that.
Yep. So, and maybe the Ood no longer exists at that point. That's why it looks different.
There.
Well, just another real quick point on the TARDIS. When they first, it might have been the second trip when they actually went to Australia. And she was like, "Have we time traveled?" He's like, "No, we just came to Australia." I'm like, "Come on, Doc," playing with time with it like that. But yeah, they went to the other side of the planet, and it was daytime. So I thought that was pretty
still
funny.
Time travel.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Just terrestrial time travel.
That's it. It still counts.
We talked about the TARDIS earlier, and some of the questions that Bill asked. One of my favorite was, TARDIS. Why would you name your box in English? It wouldn't work in any other language. Why did you do that?
That's right.
And then the doctor makes some comment of, nobody usually asks that question.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that I think we've said on Podshot before, which was, the TARDIS doesn't make sense if it's in English. But who knows?
Yeah. And fans of classic series know that, at least according to her, Susan invented that acronym anyway. So as she's growing up on Earth, so that actually makes some internal logic. But then we had to sort of retcon that as the years went by when we went to Gallifrey and we heard other Time Lords refer to the time travel devices as TARDISes.
Okay.
So either her idea spread throughout all of time and space, or
Nope. I have it. I figured it out. It makes perfect sense now. Okay, so we know that the TARDIS has a translation matrix. Yes.
Yes.
All right, and the only thing that the TARDIS can't translate is Old High Gallifreyan. So anything
older than it is. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So if but Susan, being from Gallifrey, can interpret Gallifreyan. So what Susan does is she translates Gallifreyan into the language that she is speaking at the time, which they were in England in An Unearthly Child. So in effect, by her translating a Gallifreyan word into English, in fact, she did name it TARDIS, Time and Relative Dimensions in Space, because she translated it first to our knowledge of Time Lord technology. There you go.
That's brilliant. I'll buy it. Yeah.
Okay.
And then it will turn out later that actually that wasn't new. That's what everybody's always called it for the same reason. But she's young. She doesn't know that she didn't make up something new. It all fits.
Also cool how, again, Bill asking the questions we would love to ask. They were saying before this episode came out that it would be a good episode for a newcomer. And I thought there was, in a lot of cases, her asking why the TARDIS looked like a phone box and all this stuff. I thought that was just great for someone jumping in for the first time, because you can ask Kyle. Those are the questions I came to him and were puzzled about for the longest.
And add in the fact that it's been 2 years, technically, since we've seen Doctor Who as a series. You're going to have new people coming into it like, oh, this is cool. What's this?
Yeah.
Which, incidentally, I think goes back to your earlier question about why the BBC seems so profligate with their leaks and spoilers. Because I think they now have this embarrassing situation that the show that's supposed to be the jewel in their crown has been neglected for so long. So the onus is here. We need an episode that's going to bring new fans aboard, and we also need to absolutely blizzard the media with everything that we've got. So the subtext of all that is, please watch Doctor Who, somebody please.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I'm going to mention a moment that actually is a Clara moment, since I talked badly about or saying, that I was glad that the Clara era was over. But the moment when the Doctor is about to do the same as he did with Donna to Bill at the end of the episode, did you guys notice, did you recognize the music?
Not consciously, no.
All right, go back and listen to it.
You're not supposed to. Yeah.
It is. It's the Clara theme. It's the same theme that he was playing on the guitar, which is the same theme that every time there was a Clara something throughout the. That was her theme. They played that in the background when Bill is saying, "But imagine if someone did this to you," and then he changes his mind. That's what they're playing in the background.
Interesting.
So you have Clara in the moment without actually having, well, remember when you did this to Clara? The music was supposed to subconsciously remind you of that, which I thought was very cool. So, guys, let me ask you a question. On a scale of 1 to 5, and Lee, I'll let you take this first. How would you?
Before we do ratings, let me just bring up one more thing that kind of really got on my nerves.
Okay.
The Okay, he said to get rid of water or whatever, this liquid enemy from or whatever, we're gonna go through the fire.
The ultimate fire.
But the fire was a Dalek? What? Really? Yeah. I just thought it was a dumb excuse to bring a Dalek on the episode. It made no sense. I did not like that part of the episode at all.
And even for us as fans of the classic series, we could say, well, what he's doing is he's taking them into the heart of the Dalek-Movellan War. Okay, we've been told before that was the biggest, conflict that the galaxy's ever known. Didn't really look like it from the episode, so yeah, he brought her all this way so she could get shot by a Dalek. Yeah, I'm with Clarence. What?
Well, see, they had to use that. Now, see, I got it. They had to use that footage because they had already shot the introducing Bill segment, because that is exactly the same outfit and whatever that she had on in that segment. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So they just said, okay, well, let's just throw in a little bit more, which I thought that was going to be in the episode, but it wasn't.
No, it's really true. I think this is a really well written episode, and so much about it is just spot on. And then there's that. Just really? Oh, wait, we can't go through the heart of a sun or something?
Yeah.
No, she's going to get shot by a Dalek. Okay.
No.
Yeah. Nordal was great in that scene, too. When he changed his mind and said we're going through the heart of fire or whatever statement he made, Nordal was like, no! It was so hilarious.
He knows exactly what's going to happen. Yeah.
So, guys, back to our 1 to 5. Lee, what do you think?
I'm going to give it 4.5. And the only ding is because I didn't buy the whole the necessity of going to the middle of the Dalek-Movellan War. That doesn't that was just so we could see the Movellans again for a second. Like, yeah, okay, that's silly. It was just silly. But and as a giant fan of Back to the Future, I appreciated the fact that the last words spoken in the episode were a deliberate reference to Back to the Future. So good on them for that too. Yeah, I just loved it. I was so happy. Love Bill. Love Bill. And I can't remember when I've enjoyed the Doctor himself so much. So, I'm really, really happy with it.
All right. Well, Clarence, what do you say?
Yeah, I mean, I'm right in the same range Lee is, 3.5. I really, really enjoyed the first 3/4 of the episode. I thought it was fantastic. I loved seeing Bill. I loved her asking those questions that we all want to know or want to hear answered again. And I loved her emotion. I thought her acting was really, really good. I enjoyed the quirkiness of Nordal, and the Doctors. To me, he did a pretty good job as well. I enjoyed Capaldi in this as well. So. Overall, I enjoyed this episode, and I really think, again, if somebody's trying to get in, it's a good one to jump in on. So, Cal, what about you, sir?
All right. So before I give mine, I'm going to say this. We did a poll on Twitter asking people, did you like the pilot? Yes. Did you like it? No. Or have you not seen it? And of our votes that we had on the Twitter question, 88% of people said yes, 6% said they did not like, and 6% said they had not seen it. So overwhelmingly, the people that voted said that they did like. So said that, and on our webpage, there were 2 people that voted on the similar poll, giving it 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There were 2 people that voted with 5s. So anybody want to guess what my vote's going to be?
You mean you're going with the majority?
No, I'm going with the Kyle Jordy, and
okay, good.
The Kyle Jordy is going to say I'm going to give it 5 out of 5.
Wow.
Yep. And I will tell you why. Because
there's a picture of River Song on his desk.
Very good. Yep. That was a definite, 4.999% out of my 5. Right. The other 1% was Susan. No, but seriously, this was the first time in a while, and I will probably say since the day or the time of the Doctor that I have actually had fun watching Doctor Who. Yeah. And that for that alone, I give it a 5, complete 5. So there we go.
Why are you running like a penguin?
Which is a inside joke. If you're a fan of the comics, the Sixth Doctor had a penguin as a companion in the comic. So
that's right.
There you go.
And Big Finish.
And in Big Finish, yeah.
Yeah. I think it actually started in Big Finish because why not?
And you know what? That's going. And once again, I'm going to go back to Wholanta. The simple fact of we're going to get to see the Sixth Doctor. Not Ian Bissett. I would like to meet Ian Bissett as well, Twitter handle the Sixth Doctor, but the actual Sixth Doctor, Colin Baker, that's just cool.
Oh, yeah.
It is.
All right, so gentlemen, would you like to share before we wrap anything else that you're working on that you would like to share? Lee, you have anything?
Just keep pushing people to relativitypodcast.com. See what's going on there. Right now we're in a holding pattern, but new things are happening soon. And if you haven't listened to the whole show, to all 10 episodes of Relativity so far, there is now a little player that makes it a lot easier to just start at the beginning and just let it roll. Each episode is about 10 minutes long, so you could listen to the whole shooting match in about 100 minutes.
Cool.
And why don't you?
Why don't you? All right, so Clarence, what else are you working on? Where else can you be found?
Well, first off, since Lee's so too nice, I will say it. Go to patreon.com/relativity and support the podcast. It's great. And I just, again, can't wait for new episodes. So other than that, I will just point people to techpedition.com. We're keeping it up with the geeky tech talk. Talking about processors and computers and things like that lately. A little anime on the side. The latest episode is All I Hear is Joker. And lots of fun. So check it out.
All right, so let me make a comment on something that I think Kerry asked in the latest Tech Edition, the one you're just referring to. He made a question, or he posed a question about the Gladiator from the Thor Ragnarok trailer, and I don't think I finished answering that in episode 41, if I remember correctly. That was the Hulk was sent to this planet actually by people like Iron Man, Reed Richards, Captain America, that Doctor Strange, all of them. They basically decided that the Hulk was too dangerous, so they shot him into space, and he winds up on this planet, and this Gladiator planet is where he winds up. Obviously, that's not how he gets there in the movie, but that's where that Gladiator storyline comes from.
Well, that's pretty heartless.
Yeah, it was. And he was, to say he was ticked off whenever he came back, I will just say the storyline of him coming back after that, after he, escapes, is called World War Hulk. So, yeah, he was ticked off.
Yeah. He responds about like you would think he would.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Hulk,
exactly, yeah.
Hulk smash.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right. Well, guys, it has been a pleasure. And for anybody listening, we will be weekly for the duration of Series 10. Lee won't be able to be with us next week, but we will be joined again by Angie Meadows. And she was previously, on talking about her TARDIS. So we will welcome back Angie next week. And gentlemen, since we don't have anything else to talk about other than for the evening, we are going to say that we are out of here.
You've been listening to the Discussing Who podcast. Discussing Who is made by fans for fans. No copyright infringement is intended. Show us you're fans of the show by liking us on Facebook, following us on Twitter. You can find us on the web at www.discussingwho.com. Want more Discussing Who? Find us on iTunes, Google Play Music, Player FM, the Doctor Who Podshock Alliance, and more. Send us your feedback to discussingwho@gmail.com, or if you'd like, simply record a voice message and send that to us via your smartphone, tablet, or computer. We want to hear from you.